The Happening. M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening from 2008. The film presents an environmental apocalypse where plants release airborne neurotoxins, causing mass suicides across the northeastern United States, with protagonist Elliot Moore, played by Mark Wahlberg, and his wife Alma fleeing through Pennsylvania searching for safety. The movie builds tension through its premise of invisible danger, showing crowds of people calmly walking off buildings, construction workers jumping from scaffolding, and a man at a zoo climbing into a lion enclosure where his arms are torn off. Then the climax arrives, revealing that the threat was simply nature defending itself, with plants deciding to stop releasing toxins just as arbitrarily as they started. The resolution shows Elliot talking earnestly to a plastic houseplant, begging it not to hurt his family, while Shyamalan plays the scene completely straight without irony. Critics and audiences united in mocking this ending mercilessly. The film earned an 18% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with reviewers calling it Shyamalan's worst film at that point in his career. Mark Wahlberg later admitted in interviews that it was a really bad movie, describing his confusion about what he had signed on for. The plant threat provided no satisfying antagonist to defeat, no clever solution to discover, just waiting until the toxins stopped. Shyamalan intended the film as an environmental parable about humanity's relationship with nature, but audiences found the execution laughable rather than thought-provoking. The ending transformed what could have been unsettling horror into unintentional comedy, with the image of Wahlberg negotiating with a plastic plant becoming a symbol of the director's declining reputation after The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable established him as a master of twist endings. High Tension. Alexandre Aja's High Tension from 2003, released in France as Haute Tension. The film follows Marie and Alex, two college students visiting Alex's family at their remote farmhouse, where a mysterious killer in a rusty truck arrives and brutally murders Alex's entire family. Marie hides during the massacre, then pursues the killer's truck after he kidnaps Alex, following him through rest stops and cornfields in an extended cat-and-mouse chase. The film delivers genuinely shocking violence, including a decapitation by bookshelf and a murder by staircase banister, shot with intense visceral realism. Aja builds 90 minutes of slasher tension, with Marie as the final girl tracking the killer, until the climax reveals that Marie is the killer, that she's been hallucinating the truck driver due to her obsessive psychosexual fixation on Alex, and that every murder was committed by Marie herself, while imagining someone else performing the violence. This twist retroactively destroyed the film's internal logic in ways audiences couldn't forgive. Earlier scenes show the killer from objective camera angles when Marie isn't present, including shots of him driving the truck alone and committing murders in rooms where Marie couldn't see. The film presents Marie's perspective and the killer's perspective as separate, making the reveal that they're the same person contradictory to what viewers witnessed. Point-of-view shots showing Marie watching the killer become impossible if Marie is the killer, meaning the audience saw hallucinations presented as objective reality. Critics who initially praised the film's technical craft turned against it after the ending, calling it a cheat that violated basic filmmaking rules. The twist served no thematic purpose beyond shock value, failing to recontextualize earlier scenes in meaningful ways, because those scenes couldn't have happened as shown. Aja attempted explaining that the film depicts Marie's fractured perception, but audiences argued that unreliable narration requires internal consistency. The ending transformed High Tension from a highly regarded French extreme horror film into a cautionary tale about twist endings undermining everything that came before, with the film's reputation never recovering from the backlash, despite its striking visual style and committed performances. The Devil Inside. Paramount Pictures' The Devil Inside from 2012. The found-footage exorcism film follows Isabella Rossi investigating her mother's case after Maria Rossi murdered 3 people during an exorcism in 1989, with Isabella traveling to Rome to understand what happened. The film generates genuine scares through its premise, showing disturbing possession scenes including contortions, speaking in languages the possessed shouldn't know, and violent reactions to holy items. Directors William Brent Bell and Matthew Peterman build the investigation methodically, introducing Ben and David, 2 rogue priests performing unsanctioned exorcisms, who help Isabella discover her mother remains possessed in a Catholic psychiatric facility. The film's climax shows Isabella's mother transferring demonic possession to others during an attempted exorcism, with the demons spreading to new hosts. Then, at the moment of maximum tension with Isabella potentially possessed herself, the screen cuts to black with white text appearing. The events of this film are still under investigation. For more information about the ongoing case, visit therossifiles.com. The ending became infamous as one of the worst in horror history. Audiences reported audible groans, boos, and people demanding refunds at theaters nationwide, unprecedented responses to a film's conclusion. The website referenced in the ending offered minimal additional information, mostly marketing materials that provided no actual resolution to the story. CinemaScore, which polls opening weekend audiences, gave The Devil Inside an F grade, joining only 19 other films in the company's history to receive that rating. The movie earned $34 million on opening weekend due to effective marketing, but plummeted 76% in its second weekend after toxic word-of-mouth spread about the ending. Lionsgate Entertainment faced a lawsuit from a viewer claiming the ending constituted deceptive advertising, arguing the film failed to deliver a complete story, as promised in trailers. Critics called it the most abrupt non-ending in mainstream horror, comparing it to a television episode cutting to be continued, except no continuation was ever coming. The ending suggested the filmmakers either ran out of budget, couldn't decide how to resolve the plot, or cynically planned to continue the story in sequels that never materialized. The Devil Inside became synonymous with ending failure, referenced constantly when discussing unsatisfying horror conclusions, its legacy entirely defined by those final seconds directing viewers to a website instead of providing actual resolution. The film grossed over $100 million worldwide, despite earning only 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, proving that opening weekend success means nothing when audiences feel cheated by what they paid to see. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, I post videos like this all the time. Subscribing would really help out. The Village. M. Night Shyamalan's The Village from 2004. The film establishes a 19th century Pennsylvania community living in fear of creatures inhabiting the surrounding woods, with an uneasy truce keeping the monsters away as long as villagers never enter the forest. Shyamalan creates atmospheric dread through the mythology, showing red-cloaked creatures stalking the village perimeter, bloody warnings left on doors, and elaborate rituals to appease the beings. The plot follows Lucius Hunt's forbidden love for blind Ivy Walker, leading to Lucius being stabbed by a jealous Noah Percy, forcing Ivy to journey through the woods, seeking medicine from the towns that elders claim lie beyond the forest. The audience expects revelation about the creature's true nature, anticipating Shyamalan's signature twist. The reveal comes in layers. The creatures are fake costumes worn by village elders. The village exists in present day, not the past, and the entire community is a controlled preserve created by elders wanting to escape modern violence after losing family members to crime in the 1970s. Audiences felt profoundly cheated by this resolution. The film invested significant time establishing creature mythology with elaborate rules and frightening moments, making their fake nature feel like narrative betrayal rather than clever misdirection. Critics argued that revealing everything as pretend invalidated emotional investment in the story, reducing supernatural horror to a commentary about escapism and denial. The modern-day twist struck viewers as particularly frustrating because the period setting seemed integral to the film's identity, not a deception to uncover. Roger Ebert gave the film 1 star, calling the twist a cheat that made everything before it pointless. Audiences debated whether Shyamalan intended criticism of people fleeing problems rather than confronting them, or whether he simply wanted to surprise viewers without considering if the surprise enhanced the story. The village elder's plan requires maintaining an elaborate lie, imprisoning younger generations who never chose isolation, raising ethical questions the film doesn't adequately address. Shyamalan's career suffered significantly after The Village, with critics becoming suspicious of his twists and audiences approaching his subsequent films with skepticism. The ending represented a turning point where Shyamalan's twists stopped feeling like organic story developments and started feeling like gimmicks prioritized over coherent storytelling, with The Village pointing toward his later career struggles with films like The Happening and After Earth. Law-Abiding Citizen. F. Gary Gray's Law-Abiding Citizen from 2009. The film stars Gerard Butler as Clyde Shelton, a man seeking revenge after the justice system fails him when prosecutor Nick Rice, played by Jamie Foxx, makes a deal allowing one of his family's murderers to receive a light sentence. Clyde systematically kills everyone involved in the legal proceedings, operating from inside a prison cell through elaborate tunnels and planning, demonstrating superior intelligence and resources that make him seemingly unstoppable. The film builds Clyde as an anti-hero, exposing corruption in the legal system, with audiences rooting for his revenge despite the violent methods. Director Gray originally planned an ending where Clyde wins, escaping or completing his mission, reinforcing themes about justice system failure and the cost of compromise. Then test screenings happened. Focus groups reportedly disliked seeing the villains succeed, demanding that Nick defeat Clyde to restore moral order. The studio mandated reshoots, creating a new ending where Nick discovers Clyde's tunnel system, moves the bomb Clyde planted back into Clyde's cell, and kills him with his own device. This resolution requires Nick suddenly becoming as ruthless and calculating as Clyde, abandoning the legal principles he defended throughout the film to commit premeditated murder. The ending undermines the entire narrative arc, making Nick's character transformation feel unearned and contradictory. Butler publicly expressed disappointment with the changed ending in interviews, stating the original conclusion better served the story's themes. Critics noted the ending's logical problems, questioning how Nick moved a bomb through an elaborate tunnel system in time, and why Clyde's meticulous planning failed to account for this obvious vulnerability. The ending transformed the film from a provocative thriller examining justice and revenge into a conventional story where heroes win because they're heroes, not because the plot supports their victory. Audiences who invested in Clyde's crusade felt betrayed by his sudden incompetence after 90 minutes of genius-level planning. The film grossed $127 million worldwide, suggesting commercial success despite the ending controversy, but its reputation suffered among viewers seeking morally complex conclusions. Law-Abiding Citizen became a prime example of test audience influence, corrupting artistic vision, showing how market research can flatten interesting ideas into familiar patterns. The ending debate continues in online discussions, with many viewers declaring the original planned ending superior despite never seeing it filmed, based purely on narrative logic and thematic consistency. I Am Legend. Francis Lawrence's I Am Legend from 2007, starring Will Smith. The film adapts Richard Matheson's novel about Robert Neville, the last human survivor in New York City after a virus transforms everyone else into nocturnal mutants called Darkseekers. Lawrence establishes Neville's isolation beautifully, showing his daily routines with his dog Sam, his desperate attempts to find a cure, and his deteriorating mental state after 3 years alone. The theatrical ending shows Neville discovering a cure in his blood after testing on a captured female Darkseeker, then sacrificing himself with a grenade to save Anna and Ethan, 2 immune survivors, allowing them to deliver the cure to a survivor colony in Vermont. The ending positions Neville as Christ figure, dying so humanity can be saved, with Anna's voiceover explaining that Neville became a legend by restoring hope. However, an alternate ending exists that completely changes the film's meaning. In this version, the alpha male Darkseeker attacking Neville's home isn't mindlessly violent, but desperately trying to rescue the female Neville captured, who happens to be the alpha's mate. Neville realizes the butterfly tattoo on the female matches a butterfly drawing the alpha creates on the glass, recognizing that Darkseekers retain intelligence, emotions, and social bonds. The creatures aren't monsters, but a new society Neville has been terrorizing by kidnapping their people for experiments. Neville returns the female, the Darkseekers leave peacefully, and Neville escapes with Anna to find the survivor colony, fundamentally questioning who the real monster was. This ending aligns with Matheson's novel, where Neville discovers he's the legendary monster in Darkseeker society, the boogeyman who kills them in daylight while they sleep. Warner Brothers chose the theatrical ending for mass audiences, despite test screenings showing the alternate ending received positive responses. Studio executives believed mainstream viewers wanted a heroic sacrifice and unambiguous victory over evil, rather than moral complexity requiring Neville's worldview shift. Lawrence later stated in interviews that he preferred the alternate ending thematically, but understood the theatrical version played better for commercial release. The alternate ending appears on the home video release, where many viewers discovered it and declared it superior, more intelligent, and truer to the source material. The theatrical ending reduces I Am Legend to a zombie action movie where Smith punches mutants and saves humanity through sacrifice, missing the novel's point entirely. The alternate ending preserves Matheson's central irony about perspective, examining how righteousness can blind people to their own monstrosity when they're exterminating another intelligent species. The ending choice represents Hollywood's tendency to simplify complex material, prioritizing clear emotional beats over challenging ideas, resulting in a financially successful film that disappointed fans of the novel and viewers seeking substantive science fiction horror. If you found this valuable, subscribe so you never miss new content. Appreciate you watching.